Hey guys, I hope you all are doing good. In this lecture, we will be covering pointers in detail, basically pointers in C. So it's going to be a very interesting one. I'm going to try to cover pointers in as much detail as possible. We will not go deep into function pointers and void pointers. We will understand the rest of the important stuff, right? Since this is one of those topics which should be covered in like a C programming course rather than this one, but this is just for information purposes, so that at least everybody knows what's happening in the course, and in future if we use any pointers in C code, it would be helpful to understand, right? Okay, so we're going to understand a few things. We're going to understand pointer basics, how they actually work, their relationship with arrays, and a bit more, right? So let's start with understanding what is a pointer. A pointer is a variable that stores the address of another variable, right? Okay, so and I've given the declaration syntax: int star p, a float star a, char star b, right? This is just a definition. Let's try to understand what it exactly means, right? So what happens in C is that we basically have these pointers and they stores the addresses of any variables that we create, right? What do I mean by the address? So think about this, right? Inside the memory, how do we actually access the memory, right? If I need to get some value, or let's say a file or a folder, how do I actually get it? I need to have some kind of an address for it inside my memory, right? That's the way I can access it. And that's exactly what pointers are doing in this case as well, right? Pointers point to some place inside our computer, right? They store the address and we can use the pointer to access that value, right? I hope that makes sense. So in C, this is how we basically declare any pointer. So let's talk about the different types of it, right? So if I talk about the int star pointer, right, what this means is that I'm creating a pointer to an integer. So let's say I want to create an integer, right? So there's going to be some kind of an integer block. Let's say I create a block of memory, I need it, and then I need to store integer 7 in it. Let's say the address is x 0x6000, right? So what I can do is I can create this, and let's say I do it as um, 0x6000, right? Just a very basic example. What I can do is I can use this pointer to point to this particular address, right? It would store the address, but when I want to actually get the value, let's say I'm looking for the value 7, what I would do is I would do star p, right? So let's say I want to print the value, right? This is what I would do. So what this would do is, this basically means, I should say, so this, when I write star p, that means dereferencing the value. Dereference means actually get me the value which is stored at the address. So once again, p would actually store the address, right? So for example, this p value in this case would be equal to 0x6000. Star p in this case would actually be the value 7 over here, right? So one thing that can be confusing in this case is int star p equals 0x3000. You might be wondering that we set star p equal to 0x3000, but you need to understand that this is the entire declaration in one short sentence. But in reality, what's happening is we can declare it as int star p in one sentence, and then we can set p equal 0x6000 in another, right? So I hope it doesn't confuse you that we are not setting star p as the address, we are actually setting p as the address in this declaration, right? So I hope that basically makes sense. P storing the address, star p means dereferencing, and it actually gives us the value at the address, right? Let's try to understand a few more basics about this stuff. Okay, so important thing to understand is we have different types of pointers, right? So if you notice, this is a pointer to a pointer to an int. This is a pointer to a float, and this is a pointer to a char, right? Let's try to understand what is the difference in all of that. So when I say pointer to an integer, when I declare pointers, right, I need to make sure that I properly define what they point to, This would be very important, and you will understand in the next concept we cover why it's important. But you need to make sure that whatever thing you are pointing to, right? Different types of objects, for example, an integer, float, or a character, right? Alphabets, I should say, they need different amount of memory to be stored, right? I cannot declare the memory for an integer and then store a character inside it. That can lead to problems, right? So in very simple words, different types of things, int, float, and characters, they need different memory, different amounts of memory, and that's why we need to declare pointers for them, right? So what this would do is int star pointer will basically it will create a pointer to an integer. This will create a pointer to a float, right? And this over here, the char will create a pointer to a char, right? I hope that makes sense. Let's try to understand and look at one example, right? I think that will make things a lot more clear. I would like you guys to pause the video and then try to figure out what are the values that will be printed by this, right? And then I'll try to explain what's exactly happening. Okay, so I hope you have done it. Just to give you guys a quick scenario, this is just a basic C code. What I'm doing is I'm just printing some values, right? Let's try to understand exactly what's happening. So first thing I do is I create an integer a equal 10, right? So once again, for every single value that I actually create, right, it needs memory inside the computer, right? It's not like it will be stored in the air somewhere. It actually needs some memory so that we can access it or get that value when we need it. So when I set int a equal 10, we will create a memory block for an integer, right? I think integers require 4 bytes as far as I remember. Maybe it could be different, but a block of 4 bytes will be reserved, and then the integer 10 will be stored inside it, right? Let's say this address is 0x7000. Next thing that happens is that when I say int star p equal address of a, this p, what happens is p will be equal to the address of a, or in other words, I should say it will be equal to 0x7000, right? I hope you guys don't get confused by the declaration over here. You might assume, once again, this is a clear doubt. I personally had it as well. I thought, why are we declaring star p equal the address instead of int p equal the address, right? And this is just the declaration. In reality, we are storing p as the address of a, right? If you don't understand this point, I would suggest try to pause the video or move back a few seconds and try to understand what I said once again, right? Okay, let's try to understand what's exactly happening. So P is storing the address of A, which will be equal to 0x7000. A is the value 10, right? This is what it might look like inside the memory, right? This over here. So when I print %da, I think this is very simple to understand. It will print 10, right? When I print %p comma address of A, what it's going to do is it's going to actually print the address of A. I hope that makes sense again. So it's going to print 0x7000. Okay. Now when I print star p, %p p, once again this p is also an address, right? And that address is actually the address of A. So this will also print the value 0x7000. One important note to understand is whenever we are trying to print pointers, we do them as star p, and when we are trying to print their values, we declare it as whatever value we want to print, right? So integers are printed using %d, floats are printed using %f, and characters are printed using %c, right? And pointers, if you are printing a pointer, that basically means the address, you print it using the %p sign, right? Okay, now let's try to understand what the last thing is going to print, right? This is the important part. So if you remember, star p basically means that we are dereferencing the value. Whenever I say star p means get me the actual value which is stored at the address, right? So this is actually going to print the value 10 once again. Right? So I hope this code makes sense. I hope the basics are clear. Once again, in summary, this is how we declare a pointer, right? Pointers store the address of particular value, and when we need to access the value, we dereference it, meaning we write it something like star p, right? Second thing important to understand is based on whatever data type we are using, we need to declare a different pointer for it. So if I need integers, I need to declare a pointer for integers. For floats, it's like float star a. For characters, it's star b, right? So I need to make sure that I don't make mistake in this part as well. So I hope the basics of pointers are clear. Now let's try to understand a few more things.